بسم الآب والابن والروح القدس الله الواحد آمين. Name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Firstly, I would like to welcome all of you for our monthly premarital talk, and we are streaming this talk on YouTube as well as on Facebook, so that if you can't follow us by Zoom, you can just follow us through the YouTube and through the other streaming platforms. Today we will be talking about an interesting topic, and I hope that all of you can easily just listen, and if you'd like to speak, raise up your hand, or maybe you can just talk right away. Unmute yourself, because sometimes I cannot see your hands, so feel free if you want to interrupt and ask questions. At the end also, God willing, we will have some opportunities to speak and to share your thoughts and questions. I hope that you can see my PowerPoint presentation here in front of you as well. The talk, as I said, is what we announced earlier, which is stages or phases of relationship. It is so interesting to know that the talk for today applies literally to marital relationship, to premarital relationship. It also applies to forming any groups when people get into a human relation and start to interact, because whenever you form a team of people, you are bringing so many different people from different backgrounds, and you are asking them to be together, to interact together. And at certain point, the interaction will go through multiple phases. But it is interesting that these phases could apply to a team at work, or could apply to a group of individuals when they are going for a trip, could apply between friends, it could apply between husband and wife, and so forth. You see, the outline for the presentation today will be introduction, importance, specification, different models for phases and stages, conclusion, and question and answer. Our motto is from Ecclesiastes 3. He has made everything beautiful in its due time. Wonderful, beautiful, amazing in its due time. So basically that speaks to the importance of the topic. When I know the characteristics of each stage, I also would align my actions accordingly. When I know what is expected in that particular phase, I will contribute my role. When I know what I'm expecting to face as well in that particular stage, it will be easy for me to relate to the problems, to the issues, as I will also mention, to be aware of what's going on deep inside my heart, what might be going in my mind as well, to become self-aware so that I can not just contribute rightfully, but I also can avoid huge mistakes, as I can see. Obviously, it is a stage that I am in right now, but that stage is connected to other ones. So basically, I am building a relationship on foundation of stages. The demonstration you see here in front of you, present it as ladder. You go from one step to the other, and basically sailing through the relationship requires you to actually successfully finish, complete, learn from each stage so that you can evolve and move to the next. Obviously, as you can learn, it is not just ladder, but it is more of a cyclic relationship. It is connected as a cycle. And being a cycle here, it means it could go in any direction. It could go right or left. It could actually be repeated. Like this cycle here, it is not like I finished the first stage, I am moving to the next and so forth. No, you actually do that, but the whole cycle can repeat itself multiple times in your life. Basically, you're gonna find that when we look at relationships, people classify relationships into 5 categories, or they actually put them in 5 stages. And obviously, if I look at these stages, for someone, there might be another stage, like a pre-stage. When I look at romance stage, for example, romance in that case, assume that people started by liking one another and then move to the romance stage. Or when I look at the co-creation or the bliss stage, after the bliss stage, we can go even deeper into a full understanding of what unity means in life. So you could say we might add 2 more stages, one before and one after. But anyway, let's focus today on those 5 stages that psychologists agreed to. Today, there are tons and tons of resources we will be integrating together. Yet, to make it easy, I actually focus so much on 2 particular articles written by relationship specialists who had like graduate degrees in family and marital issues, because the way they presented that, I actually felt it's so easy to understand and easy to relate to. So most of my talk today, most of my presentation will be from these 2 articles, yet the information here is a result of a lot of researches. Let me name for you the stages that people go through in a relationship, and let us take one stage at a time and talk about it. But I want you to focus, because my whole intention today is to present to you something solid, robust, and organized, so that you can know which stage you are in, or you can know what to expect in different stages. People actually look at the 5 stages and they say there is a romance stage. Some other people call it the honeymoon stage. Then comes what we call the power struggle, and then the stability, then the commitment, and the co-creation or bliss. There's other people who actually have a different label for those stages, but they are almost the same. People might look at the first stage and they call it the merge, given what happens in honeymoon when people somehow drop their boundaries and start to merge together. And then the struggle or the power struggle, some people call it doubt and denial. And the third stage, some people call it disillusionment. And the 4th stage, they call it the decision, because what happened in that is a big decision. People decide in that 4th stage whether to continue life together or sometimes to be separated. And the bliss stage, some people call it the wholehearted love stage. Obviously, in our Orthodox Church, you're gonna find that the Bible in the Book of Songs talks about the human soul going through multiple stages of love with the beloved Christ. And in fact, I once did some study in the Book of Song of Songs from that perspective, where I looked at the characteristics of every love phase. And I found that the Book of Songs presents a wonderful 6 stages of love. It was unbelievably amazing to see how the Holy Spirit presents to us relationship between a human being and God in that language of love, in that progression of development. Before I start, I want you to think about 5 stations or 5 phases, and I want you to know that each one of them has a different characteristics. Each one of them has challenges. You play a different role in each one of them. Yet the big question is, where are you in that particular cycle? One of the articles I shared today has something called a test. There is a link where you take a quiz, and in that quiz, you answer questions, and it should tell you exactly which stage you are in right now. The funny thing is, when you do that, if you find yourself, for example, in the 3rd stage, and then you consider the length of your relationship, well, the first honeymoon phase is expected to take about 2 years. The 2nd stage, it could take another year. So if you find yourself in the 4th stage and you are just 6 months into your relationship, you know that something is wrong, because you're actually living in a particular expectation of station 4, which means you have been in a relationship for 7 years at least, and now you are only have been in a relationship for 6 months. So this is the beauty of this kind of test, to know, am I really following that timeline appropriately? Obviously, when I say 2 years honeymoon phase, well, it could vary from a couple to other. It could also change between people and personality. It could also be different given other aspects. Yet the norm, what we are talking about here, is these are the normal distribution of these phases and stations. Before I start moving to stage 1, I want to ask if you have any question about what I said so far. And I want you, if you are using Zoom, just raise your hand and I will know exactly that you have a question. If not, I will move and then I will allow comment and questions at the end. Okay, so I assume no questions so far, and it is just the introduction. Now we start to talk about the first phase, what we call the honeymoon phase. Obviously, from the name, it's honeymoon, which means it is all about love, all about intimacy, all about emotions, all about relationship in its fullness. People actually dream of this phase, and it is basically when 2 people meet together and they think that each one is the perfect fit, the perfect match, and they start to invest all their emotions into the relationship. They start to dream of a perfect life after getting married. It's the honeymoon phase where people actually often feel as if they have found their perfect match, as they said. They spend times, maybe hours and hours over the phone and Skype, and they could actually decide to sacrifice their sleep time just to talk to their partners. They put a lot of effort and time into the relationship and into getting to know someone. It is so important in this case to know that people always feel that they want to be together and they want to sacrifice all boundaries. People, when they are in this phase, they actually could be so much connected to the point that their brain could start to release a lot of mix of hormones that trigger and maintain a state of infutation. And infutation, we will define that later on. But it is basically when you start to be emotionally blinded. People would be emotionally invested to the point that they could make promises. Somebody could promise to travel the world with his partner. Another person would promise to leave the family for the partner. Another could say, you know what, I will sacrifice my career for you. to be with you. I will sacrifice my profession for you, to be with you. People are somehow under the influence of dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins, to the point that some psychologists call this phase the drug addict phase. People are under drug. They don't take drug, but their brain somehow put them in that state. So what can I do if I am in that state? And obviously, it is so crucial to be in that state or that phase, because this is the foundation of relationship. But you need to be aware of what I said. Number one, I want you to enjoy the stage a little bit. This is the time of honeymoon, which means it's the most invested emotion of your relationship. So enjoy it as much as you can. Number two, be aware, because you actually could be emotionally blinded, or you will be emotionally blinded. Number three, take time to step back and observe your emotion. If you find yourself gradually being dragged and drowning into that emotion state, when you think that my partner is the perfect match, and for that you start to compromise and sacrifice and make promises that you shouldn't be making, be aware that you are getting in the mud. For that, try not to be alone. Try to have some emotional support, some rational support from people around you. Parents, in that case, will be the best. A father of confession will be the best. Someone who you trust so much with wisdom, someone who is not in your age, maybe more older than you, can help you. But make sure that you talk to the right person. You seek help because you are so in love. Now comes the problem of infatuation. And infatuation in that case could actually destroy your judgment. You actually become more of a fool. Let me apologize for that, but that's what psychologists said. Infatuation is foolish because it can only make you see your partner as perfect. You only see the light side of your partner, but you are in complete denial of their dark sides. And that's why it's a trap, because there is dishonesty, and the dishonesty, forgive me to say that, is not caused by others, but it is caused by you. If that happens, you will be actually driven by your heart, not by your brain. Your brain will be completely under the influence of your heart. You will not see, or you completely decide to ignore very important signs that will actually show you many things. Indication that you are in that stage, but in the wrong side, was you do excessive dating, and when you actually start to rush into meeting the parents, when you get engaged just in a matter of a week or two, you meet somebody, and in a week or two, you decide to get engaged and get married. Obviously, some cases, this what happens because of circumstances. Yet, if you are in normal setup, this shouldn't happen. Honeymoon phase takes like 2 years. People in that honeymoon phase will spend 2 years going together, going out, meeting. Yes, make sure that you meet enough, but not excessively to the point that you become compromised. It is a romantic stage that is categorized by dishonesty, because you are only relying on romance and emotion. As I said, some people call it the drug addiction phase. Moving from that phase, you go to reality of life, and comes phase 2, which we call it the power struggle phase. And it usually takes place in the 3rd and the 4th year of relationship. You start to notice that your partner is not really the perfect individual that you imagine he was. You start to also notice that he might not be the perfect match, or at least if he is the perfect match, you need to define what is perfect match. Perfect match in that case becomes a wonderful acceptance of differences, an acceptance of mistakes. Sometimes actually people look at the doubt or denial, the power struggle, as an entry level to what we call a reality check. Power struggle increase, and you marvel at the change in your partner. Feeling of love is mixed with alienation and irritation. You know that you might not be perfect for each other in that case. It's actually a test of reliability and rigidity. Basically, in that power struggle stage, your brain starts to kick in, no longer driven by emotion, but by rational thinking. Your frontal lobe start to get engaged more than your emotional centers. You become a little bit disappointed. You actually, in that case, you start to question, did I make the right decision? You feel sometimes the need to fight to defend your values. Well, those compromises that you did before, when you promised, for example, to sacrifice your own career for your partner, well, in that case, you start to say, well, why should I be the one sacrificing? Why don't you sacrifice your career? So you start to impose your own compromise on your partner. Obviously, avoiding that to start with is better. Knowing that in the first phase, it's a honeymoon phase, everything is delicious, everything is beautiful, everything is amazing, I want to be with my partner, nothing else. You know that this is how you feel, so be aware not to make any compromise or make any promises. Because in that second phase, when you do the reality check, when you go through the power struggle, who is in control and who is compromising, who is not, you don't find anything to blame one another for. Well, in that case, people ask the question, why aren't you like me? Well, I compromised this for you. Why didn't you compromise for me? Well, I am thinking of our life to be like that. Why don't you think like me? I am investing in that. Why don't you invest like me? In that power struggle phase, you need to learn techniques of conflict management, because if you don't, that power struggle phase will destroy the relationship. Sometimes you need to learn how to de-escalate or de-escalate the conflicts. I remember in one of the talks, I think Nardina Wadallah gave us that talk. She talked to us about conflict management, and she presented a wonderful model on how to diffuse conflict when we talk about differences and problems and issues in a very civilized way. You need that technique or those skills during the power struggle phase. Power struggle arguments are normal part of relationship, but they don't need to be part of the fire in the relationship. Actually, when problems come, they present opportunities. That power struggle phase, I wish it happens before marriage, because in that power struggle phase, you will see how you can handle your differences, how you can resolve your issues, how you can work together collaboratively in maneuvering around an obstacle, or maybe overcoming a barrier, or maybe destroying a stumbling block. It actually presents an opportunity to learn about your own self and each other's love language. It is important to be aware that this stage should actually start to happen around year 3 in relationship, and it could last for a couple of months It could even last for a year. But sometimes people drown in that. And sometimes people actually make decision to break the bond and end the relationship because of disappointment. You will actually notice that in this stage, one of the partners might be working so hard to pursue the relationship while the other one is withdrawing. The only outcome in this relationship is to either break up or decide to survive. And if you decide to survive, and you manage to survive despite the difficulties, without any compromise, without any feeling trapped, feeling comfortably enough to continue life, would actually be an indication that your marriage, that the end of your relationship will be a survival relationship. And then it will evolve into a full intimacy, a bliss. This one actually depends on how you were raised up. If you were raised up in a family where problems are not discussed in a civilized way, where conflicts are not addressed and resolved, where people learn to bury everything under the rug, the power struggle in that case becomes a problem. And if people decide to break up, it will be better for them not to continue marriage. And if they decide to survive, it will be a disaster because later on, marriage will collapse. Overcoming the power struggle phase of relationship requires a lot of effort and needs working from both sides. You need to discover a reliable way for communication. You also need to learn how you can quickly repair and regulate your emotional disconnection. You also can heal all the hurt and restore broken trust, but you need to learn techniques. Someone who is raised in a family where the word apology doesn't exist, in that case, emotional regulation, broken trust, and hurt will always be an issue. People in that case, in that stage, need to learn how to share power. Sometimes power struggle is about decision making. Who makes the decision and who follows? People in that phase will learn how power is shared and distributed. It is fantastic, actually, to know that without power struggle, people are living in delusion, because reality of life that there will be struggle. But in that case, it is an opportunity to learn techniques and an opportunity to learn acceptance to differences, an opportunity also to learn collaboration, overcoming crises, and so forth. If you learn early on how to handle these kind of issues, later on in life, when you are faced with much larger issues, you already have the foundation and you already started to build on skills, and you started to exercise, and your problem-solving techniques, the muscles related to that now becomes strong enough. Then comes the third stage. And a third stage here is actually the fruit of the power struggle. It's actually becoming free from the delusion. They call it disillusionment. Disillusionment is when you start to drop the mask and when you start to also take off the blindfold, the emotional blindness, when you start to see things on its reality, obviously you will be feeling disappointed a little bit. It is actually a stage where you feel your relationship is cold. People call that third stage the winter season of love. When things are cold, it's very routine. There is no warmth in love. There is no exchange of love messages. There is no touch of love. All of these are very routine interaction. Relationship becomes so cold. Some people become perpetually vigilant and ready to fly into a battle. People are waiting to pick up a fight in that stage because there is nothing really they can build or relate to. Disillusionment is important when it happens, but what makes it important is how you act in it. Let me just give you a few things that happen during that disillusionment. You actually feel like you are at a juncture. Some original experience and passionate love is somehow feel distant, like you don't really relate to them that much. They are there, but it's like your childhood toy. Somehow you know it's in the basement. So that juncture will make you feel that your passionate love, yeah, it's a distant memory. And instead of using the we, togetherness, and all of that, in that stability stage, you actually re-emerge the I. I becomes a dominant feeling. You start to focus more on yourself. You see, this is important because what happened is you compromise yourself in the first stage, you make promises, you offer completely to disappear. And in the second phase, there was somehow a crisis. Now you started to go back again to the I. And I here is not a selfish attitude at all, but it is maintaining your own self and identity for you and for the we. Because a big problem happens in a relationship is when you feel like you are completely wiped out. When you feel like your partner focuses on himself alone and want you to focus on himself as well. When you become lost in the relationship. No, in that case, it's a self-care case where I feel, yes, I am valued, I am valuable, I am a contributor for me and for the relationship. A few days ago, I was chatting with someone and I was trying to embrace the idea of self-care, how self-care is considered spiritual. And I told actually that group, Jesus once said for them, I sanctify myself. Sometimes taking care of yourself is good for others. And the example that we all relate to is when we are in an airplane and there is a problem with the oxygen, they always ask you to put your mask on so that you can help others. In a relationship, a healthy relationship requires the wife to focus on herself, her own beauty, her own sanity, her own weight, her own hygiene, her own success, her own recognition. And the husband would do the same. And each one of them would feel like he is doing this for the other. I am presenting myself in that stability stage as a successful individual, as a healthy individual, as an active member, as every stabilized emotional being, not only for myself, but for the other. And I expect the other to do the same for me. In that case, you feel like life doesn't depend on one of them, but life is built on that two foundation. If you remember the motto that the servants chose for us this year, they said that a three chord is more stronger than one. Two are better than one, and a three chord actually can last the challenge. Someone is asking, can we also have an intensive discussion sometimes about self-care? Yes, absolutely. Actually, we will have a pure lecture about self-care. But the comment is so important because we somehow feel like taking care of ourselves is selfish. Well, it can go either way. While you take care of yourself, you are actually presenting yourself in the most appealing way for yourself and for others. Whereas taking care of yourself and denying the others his right or her right, or taking care of yourself on the account of others, that's where it becomes problematic. We'll definitely have a talk about self-care and how we can do that in an orthodox spiritual way. What to do in that stage, stage 3? Stage 3, actually, you need to be extremely clear. Clear the air and create space. You actually need to be extremely pure-hearted and pure-minded, because you don't want to hurt yourself or hurt others. You actually need to draw a very clear line where I need to take care of myself for selfish reason, and where I need to take care of myself for the relationship and for the others. Someone who compromises his profession or his license for others, he's not taking care of himself for the others. He's destroying himself, and the other later on will blame him for that. Let me put it up front. Only an abuser will affect your life negatively by devaluing you or by asking you to sacrifice for him unnecessarily. Pardon, let me make sure that my word is so clear. In our Orthodox Christian marriage, we embrace the concept of sacrificial love. But sacrificial love doesn't mean that one partner sacrifice the other for himself. No. And it doesn't mean I sacrifice myself for the other to be full of himself. Absolutely not. Sacrificial self in that case, or sacrificial love in that case, it means out of love, I maybe give away some of my rights. But guess what? When Jesus did that, the result was two things: salvation and life. Does my sacrifice bring salvation and life to the family? If it does not, absolutely it is not right to do. So stop pushing problems under the rug during that phase. It is basically a very intense negativity. So basically you need to practice some affection. You'll be surprised to know that in that stage, the stability stage, part of taking care of yourself is to get involved intimately with your partner, and to actually invest a lot in, let us do things together, let us cook dinner together, let us get gifts to one another. Learning about the love language in the previous phase will help you today to know how you can show love to the other and how you can demand love to yourself. You see, you need to learn that during the merge phase, your brain was somehow under toxic positivity. During the disillusionment phase, your brain is somehow at the zeroing, very null when it comes to relationship. During the stability phase, you actually learn a lot about how you can make a decision for yourself to get engaged, not driven by emotion, but by rational. You offset the process with intentional gratitude practice. Intentional gratitude, maybe we will have also another talk about gratitude and the effect of gratitude on your psychology and the relationship, but you actually get involved into gratitude. You start to learn how to appreciate one another and how to appreciate yourself in that very highly spiritual gratitude atmosphere. Obviously, each word I say today is a talk by itself, but my focus is more on the phases and the stages. We are still in stage 3. Stage 3, if you look here at the curve in front of you, stage 3 is actually that point highlighted in light brown, where your curve will start to go back again, but it will go back again upward in a slow slope, because you are not spontaneously responding to emotions, but you are engaging your logic and your rational. Anyway, we go to stage 4, and stage 4 here is somehow could be a breaking point, or it could be a very solid decision, a decisive stage of continuing the relationship. You are still in stage 3. You are still trying to heal your brain, getting your rational decision making under control again. Yes, you are actually offsetting the process by gratitude, intentional gratitude practice, yet it's a decision you make rationally. Now, in that stage, in stage 4, you are deciding on the commitment. You feel like, yes, each one of us is somehow alone, but if you look carefully, you know that being alone in that case is dark. Each one is thinking separately from the other, but you also feel that being separate here means my life has no colors. So basically, it's a decision-making process. It's a decisive stage. It's a breaking point, whether you decide to continue or not to continue, but going in a healthy relationship, this is where you make a decision to get your emotional breakdown cured, and as well as to get your rational decision-making under control. You let not your heart drive your brain. You let not your brain deceive your heart, but you let both of them work together. You actually get emotion again in place, but it will be emotional-based decision by rational thinking and analysis. You contemplate a lot to leave, but at the same time, you think, how can I remain in that relationship? Let me tell you something very interesting about that internal struggle. I told you that the first stage will take a year or 2. Second stage will take a year or maybe less. Third stage, it actually takes a few months. We are talking here about 4 years, for example. You see, stage 4 is the stage when people make a decision to get married or not to get married. When I say here to stay or to leave, it's actually to make a commitment to the individual. Can we be together? Can you accept me as a partner forever? You see, in that stage here, If you decide that I want to make a commitment, my commitment will not be based on emotions or rational alone, but it will be based on them both. One of the authors actually wrote a lovely thing that I wanted to share with you. He said that only if you can be honest with yourself, if you can honestly say to your partner, I don't need you, but I choose you. Knowing all I know about you, good and bad, only then you can propose the ring and you can get married. And it happens after you go through those stages. Honeymoon, and the second one, and the third one, conflict, reality check, and disillusionment. Only then, after 4 years in relationship, you can propose and you can accept. Again, some people might take less than that. Some cases might be less than that, but make sure that you check all these things and you know that all these things are important. People in that stage might propose to get married. Then comes what we call the wholehearted love, co-creation, or what we call a bliss stage. In that stage, you look here at the first picture, you see fingerprints, two fingerprints together, integrating in a mutual point, forming a heart, which actually expresses the wholehearted relationship. It's hard because it must involve love, but love in that case is mutual, is made up by your two fingerprints. You have your own stamp in that. She or he together contribute. There is a mutual point because when we get married, we start to be united together, but there is still part of you and part of me still alone, which means still private. That merge is still a process that will take time. When we get married in the church, the priest might put the ring halfway in the finger and ask you to push to the end, meaning today we create that mutual area that you see here. But the process requires both of you to really do more and more, work more, so that you can be wholehearted in love. Only then you will see that this is the perfect match. When you have a mutual common things between you, but each one of you has his own identity. Each one of you is contributing to the relationship. Each one of you has his own flavor. Each one of you still can maintain his own space. Each one of you still can feel the eye for the others, not to be killed for the others, to be successful for one another, to be to achieve yourself the full potential for yourself and for the others. The fruits of couples' labor are fully reaped in that case. The experience through self-discovery, they accept imperfection in each other, but also they accept differences in each other. The wholehearted love, the co-creation or the bliss, requires a lot of hard work. But when you look here at the brain earlier was glowing in the honeymoon phase, emotionally driven. Then the emotion was shut off and the frontal lobe recognition and discernment was turned on, and so forth. Today, you're gonna find that, no, actually, we interact with one another. There are tons of exchange between the brain. We are a rational, emotional being. We feed one another at that level. We can enjoy to be together, whether playing together, whether relaxing together. We experience a lot of thrilling, passion, joy, sex. We merge in each person. We rediscover ourselves in the others, and we allow the others to be discovered in our life. It's lovely to see that this is the process of unity. Different colors coming from different brain going to the other one, filling the space between with a lovely color of unity. This is where people start to bless their life. Couples are able to stay in that stage as long as they want, as long as they invest. Life becomes more hopeful. You see green light everywhere. You see clear sky. Even if there is cloud, they know that problems will come, but they also know that the clouds are so white, so clear, meaning that the problems that will come might water their grass to make it even more and more livable. And glory be to God forever, amen. And I'm done with my talk. I tried as much as possible to make it easy and as much as possible to make it organized. So I would like to hear your comment or thoughts. If you have something to say, please raise your hand, or I can go in order and ask you to make a comment, whichever you prefer. I will stop sharing my screen first, and then I will wait for a second or two. If you have a question or comment, raise your hand. If not, I will go through the names and ask you to either say a comment or ask a question. Okay, so no hand raised, meaning no one is willing to speak at first. So everyone is presenting the others. Type. Let us start by Anesti.
No comment, Abuna. Thank you for the lesson. It was very educational. I didn't realize that there were stages in a relationship before marriage, so it was kind of interesting to learn about that. I'll probably have to do some more reading though, because I feel like each phase is its own lesson.
Absolutely, Habibti. It's really important to know that everything in life goes through cycles and this and that. Obviously, when we live, we don't just get a block note and write down, okay, today I'm on stage this or that. But people realize that the majority go through these stages. And when they do research and discovery and science and statistics, they find that it is important to share this so that people can know what to expect. For example, if people are in the first phase and all of a sudden they make promises and they put their guard down and they do this and they do that, later on they will regret it because they are emotionally blinded. Now we know. So if I go through this, I don't make those compromise or promises. Thank you so much for your comment, Habib. Diana?
Thank you so much for the lesson, Abuna. I do agree with Anisti. It is really interesting to learn that there are so many stages, and I feel like sometimes we will jump to conclusions depending on what stage we're in without actually analyzing or just be driven by emotions. So I thought it was very valuable. Thank you.
Thank you, Habibti. Okay, Parthena and Peter.
I want to thank you for the talk, and I only have I get a good thing about the point that you talk about, that it when you take care of yourself, it's indirectly impact your relationship. That's a really good thing.
Definitely, it is essential because sometimes we might be somehow misled, and being misled here means I feel like it's wrong for me to take care of myself because I don't want to be selfish. Yes, try not to be selfish, but also try to be wise, taking care of yourself for others. One of the things that Marita Sohn used to say is a husband, when he takes care of himself, would also impact the image of his wife. Someone who walks with a nice clothes, maybe a lovely smell, and all of that. People, when they look at him, they will praise him, but more importantly, they will also praise his wife. So taking care of yourself, but be careful to do that not on the account of others. Affect you and impact the others as well. That's a very important point, actually. Thank you so much, Habib. Someone here is saying, yes. Any books to recommend? Yes, we can definitely recommend some books. I will definitely send you to the group some of the books about this topic as well. Type, Irini, would you like to say something?
Hey, Abuna, thanks for the talk. Yeah, it was great learning about how long the stages actually can take, and that they're all supposed to be prior to marriage. I think that there's probably many instances where people don't actually go through all the stages and they get married somewhere in the middle of the way, and then they experience the challenges later on. So it's great learning about all this ahead of time.
Absolutely, Hayati. Sometimes, as I said, what I talk about here and the numbers and this and that, I'm only presenting what is known as the normal case, the normal distribution, where we speak about the majority. Yet in some cases, for every rule, there are some exceptions, and exceptions could be good as well. But what I'm saying here, getting the sense, because sometimes people could get into a relationship and they invest a lot, and in a month or two, people make compromise. And you come across a relationship that doesn't flourish, doesn't evolve into potential thing, and people get hurt a lot because they made those compromise or promises way early. And sometimes I would just use one term, sometimes irrational. But they get hurt. So knowing that will definitely protect you. Thank you, Habibti, for your comment. Type Andrew.
Thank you, Abuna, for the lesson.
Thank you, Habibi. Stephanie.
Hi. No, the talk was amazing. I had one small question, if that was okay. Obviously, this is based on like the regular norms, like scenarios where like people
Yes.
meet normally and it's a normal relationship and it's a normal marriage with some issues. With the cycle of abuse, however, when looking at that, usually the reality check comes after marriage, not before it. So
Yes.
how does a person deal with that if they can't? I'm aware that if they rush into it and stuff like that, it could lead to an increased risk of being in an abusive marriage because you don't actually know the person that well or something along those lines. But if someone is in an abusive situation, when does the reality check kick in, or does it kick in at all? Because I know that also some women in abusive relationships will give excuses like, I protect him, I take care of him, like it's my job, it's fine, it's all good, this is normal. So when would the reality check kick in at that point?
Let me say that, Stephanie, and that's an amazing question as well. Reality check-in should be 100% all of the time during all the stages, because the word reality means truth. You don't want to be living in a lie, not in a honeymoon phase, not in a disillusionment phase, not in, obviously, reality check in that case becomes one of the most important tool in your toolbox. It becomes your salt and pepper in the meal. It becomes everything. So in one side, it should be there every single time. You should continuously, but not overdoing it, because you might be obsessively checking the reality. So continuously, you need to check the reality, obviously. On the other side, that cycle I presented, it's a cycle of any human relation, whether you are working or you are into intimate relationship or you are married. Because the cycle that we discussed, yes, in a span of relationship, phase 4 in that case, people propose and get married. But let us say we already are married today. Can we go through the same cycle again? Well, the first period of marriage, after you get married, we call it honeymoon phase. And in 2 years, and that's typical statistical scientific research, in 2 years, people go through living together. Now, let us talk about the conflicts. Conflicts happen. And honestly speaking, one of the researches that I went through talked about first divorce. Obviously, in our church, we don't have divorce unless in certain circumstances. But statistically, first divorce happened in the 3rd year or the 4th year during that stage of conflict. So what I'm saying is the same cycle takes place again after marriage. Can it take place again for example, after being married for 20 years? Yes, there is a midlife crisis that go through the same exact cycle. People start to question. But the danger for that is in midlife crisis, the I statement here becomes dangerous because people could break the marriage for the sake of I against the we. That's why we need to be very careful that I take care of myself for the family. I take care of myself for the others. I take care of myself not in the account of others. I take care of myself while allowing the other to take care of himself as well. I hope that this answers you. But obviously, when we talk about the power cycle and the abuse and all of that, we'll definitely have a clear exercise how you can check the reality, whether you are in abusive relationship or a sincere one. Thank you for the comment and the question. Karas, do you have something to say?
Hi, Abuna.
Hi.
No comments from me.
Hi, Habibi. Ala, I'll give you the mic if you'd like to have something to say. I'm sure you do have a lot to say.
I think I'm going to pass the mic to Hala Salama first, then we can.
Hi, Hala, ازيك? How are you?
منى ازي قدسك ميرسي يا منى على التوك الجميل ده. It's interesting to look back after 35 years of marriage at the stages and different things. And as you said, Abuna can take different time. Stages. I like for me and Ala, pretty much the stage took a few days. The stages took a few days, but
given how busy you are, 2 days could be considered 2 years, I guess, right?
So effective. She's so effective.
No,
processing
it was
things.
funny how our stages went so fast. But I think the maybe when people are younger, the stages can go faster because they don't have much experience, they don't have much expectations, they don't have much, they don't think about it too much. They just follow their gut feeling, or
Definitely.
they just hope for the best and pray that's the right decision. I was just curious as well about the impact and the contribution of the parents and the community, where it comes in all these like stages and stuff. Like it can have like a positive effect there, or for sure can have a negative effect as well. But I think this could be a whole new talk there, isn't it, Abuna?
Yes, absolutely. But keep going first.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm just like when I think back, I felt like my parents and Allah's parents, like I'm talking about personal experience, had a lot of, in the beginning, a lot of input there. But maybe like this was for the introduction, and after that, I don't think there was much of impact there, but it can be like like parents can influence the decisions either way to be like kind of an eye opener, or could be like a relationship breakers.
Absolutely. Obviously, what you said is 100% true. And I think in one of the talks we have about family structure, where we see the role of the parents and the circles of trust and how their involvement, the percentage change from time to time and face to face. Let's just put it this way. True fact is we are affected by our parents and our family, our surroundings. Our upbringing in that case will affect how we handle issues and conflicts. A girl who is raised in a very conservative family might actually learn by mistake that it is wrong for a wife to question her husband or talk to him or address conflicts. Whatever the husband said is given. He's the man of the house, he's the priest of the house, so she doesn't have even the right to say no. Obviously, that's wrong, but that's the effect of the family. Another example for family, a girl who is raised up in a very careless family, or a boy who is raised in a very toxic family, might feel that relationship, marriage is all about fight, and who has the right to protect his own belonging or whatever, to the point that people will hide from one another. Family is all about fight, so they don't know anything other than fight. A boy or a girl who is raised in a family where saying sorry doesn't exist might not be able to admit and own up to his role in the mistake, and so forth. So what you are saying is 100% true, that we are affected. In psychology, they call that the attachment style. What is the effect? Or maybe in Freudian talk, it's the psychodynamic and all of that, how our upbringing affect our behavior today. This is so important. That's why we all the time talk to parents and try as much as possible to present the true, pure Christian model in parenting. At the same time, as you said, the role of parents should change with time. And they should be respectful enough to provide advice, to support. When I live with wonderful single boys and girls, I might have a different role than when my child is engaged, than when he or she is married. I shouldn't rush, but I should hold accountable. I shouldn't push, but I should also challenge. So basically, the role is different. It's a dynamic role given the phases and the stages and the circumstances. Can I be the rational thought when my girl, my daughter, my son is in the honeymoon phase? Absolutely yes, because I know that she or he will make emotional decision to compromise himself or herself that they will regret later. Can I be the mediator when my daughter or my son go through the conflict phase? Absolutely yes, because they need somebody to calm them down, not to make a decision to break the marriage and all of that, and so forth. Do you see what I mean? The role of family in that case changes with the dynamic of the relationship and with the evolvement of the stages. I don't know if I answered you or not, but I agree with you that we will need definitely a talk about that.
Thank you, Abuna.
ربنا معك. أي علاء.
Before I say anything, I just want to ask if anyone else wants to make comments. No,
Yeah.
I have two other audience, but they were on the background. So I have a comment. And I have two questions.
Sure.
Comment is, I'm so grateful that Abuna clarified that at some stage, when you go through the checklist, reality check, you have to make a decision that this relationship will survive and will be healthy, or you have to stop there.
Sure.
Quite often we feel that this is failure and we push beyond reason to the point that people become like in a toxic relationship trying to make it work and make it work. So I take my hat off for the people who endured the pain, reached the point and they said, this relationship is not going to work. We are not going to proceed with this. We are not going to propose. And this is the very lucky ones that they realized the differences before they proposed.
Yes.
The difficulty I have is, as one of the audience mentioned, these stages can happen over longer period of time and often happens after you are married. Then your options are either you survive or you survive or survive, because the church will not let you go unless there is whatever huge painful issues. And I'm not in any way saying that this is criticizing this. I'm just saying that these couples are in very difficult situations. They just have to make it work because the alternative is very difficult. I don't know if there is any answer to this. I'm not expecting Abuna to come with an answer to this, but when we are surrounded by, or if we are part of the life of a couple that going through this, all what we can do is to support and not to be critical, because it is really, really tough situation.
I really like that, Ala. What else you'd like to say first?
I have two questions. What is the definition of toxic positivity? Because Nardine was sitting next to me and she just like said something that made her, she had a smile on her face. And the second thing that when pushing things under the rug, quite often it's not pushing things under the rug. Quite often it is being reasonable, picking the fight. What am I going to deal with now? Am I going to be picking all the negatives, blow it up and just sit there, make the whole room dusty where you cannot breathe? Or am I going to select things that are positive, not toxic, positively positive, to make my life? And this is where في مصر, I don't know, بكرة يتنكد بكرة.
Okay.
If we're doing this, like looking for sadness, or is it really going to help you? Is it like, are you trying to get business for yourself, guys, psychologists, that, hey, bring all the bad things in your life so we can have 75 sessions? I'm saying this because Nardine is next to me, or
Yes.
she's in the back there, and I think she's promoting conflicts to make business, which I am sorry, I'm going to shut up. So this is the end of my discussion. So I'll be quiet.
Let me speak your language first to answer your question. What do you think? What does a pregnant woman need? Is her need different throughout the pregnancy, or she is always gonna need one thing from day one of pregnancy till the delivery or the labor day?
She has only 70% of her energy. She's feeling sick and nauseous and emotional for the first 3 months. The second 3 months, she can hardly walk her lower back. So the needs are absolutely variable throughout. The support she needs is variable.
Likewise, relationship, because relationship is a dynamic living thing. It is not a solid toy, so that we have a remote, we press this, it moves, no, it is a dynamic and living thing, and it is affected by the environment and the surroundings, and it can be fused and diffused all the time. So the needs for relationship is a continuous care and maintenance and all of that because of the nature. It is dynamic. We are human beings, we change and so forth. Number two, obviously, and that's a beautiful thing that you made, picking fights or hiding or with delaying or putting under the rug. Well, we obviously know that problems are there, and we obviously know that talking about problem is not the best thing, but handling our issues and differences, managing our conflict is like cleaning the house, clearing the air and so forth. Can I do that in a wise way? Absolutely. Can I pick the right time? Yes. Is there a way I can present a model for handling conflict, giving feedback without attacking? Yes. Can it go the other side and destroy a relationship? Absolutely. So what can we do? That's exactly what we do. We talk, we present, we address, we speak about models, we demonstrate issues, and we say that we have wonderful, well-trained people who have the ability and the capacity and the skills to help us. So basically, all what you said is 100% true. And does it mean we have a responsibility to work? Yes. Does it mean we have to put time and effort and support those who like to study and be specialized in these areas? Absolutely yes. Does it mean I can make it through life without any need for any kind of support? Absolutely not. You see what I mean? That's why we are talking today. That's why we invited Nardine a while back ago to talk to us about conflict management. That's why Ala will talk to us about intimate sexual intimacy and all of that. That's why we had a talk about women empowerment. And that's why last week we had male and female are equally important, so that we can take off the stigma and we can present what we think is the Christ model of relationship, where male and female are equally important, are equal in everything. Again, I know that I didn't answer you, or I didn't provide a clear feedback on what you said, but what I want to say is I agree with what you said. And regarding the church and everything, well, there is the responsibility that we can do, which is preventive, and that's what we do today. Most of our audience today, maybe one or two are married, one or two are in relationship, one or two are not still, they are still getting ready for relationship, which means we are presenting that as a preventive measure. How about we avoid reaching the point where I end up with people living together, and for them to be together, it's a painful process and it's like a hectic life that might even compromise their own salvation. Can we do our due diligence to prevent that from happening? Well, today we are trying to present these talks so that people know what are the signs. Putting under the rug might not be the problems, it could be the signs. While I am dealing with my partner, I observed how he, for example, will choose his friends over me. I observed how he feels so happy if I, for whatever reason, got hurt because of his treatment. Well, all of these are signs that the person is abusive. And sometimes I put these signs under the rug because I am positively toxic.
Thank you for the clarification, because this is an eye-opener to how relationship can kill. And we've seen people who physically kill themselves. We've seen people who emotionally kill themselves and decided to live in their own little bubble,
Yes.
hoping that. I just want to clarify as well that the fifth stage that Abuna mentioned, which is the wholehearted, at the bottom of the slide, you kindly said that there's a lot of investment, a lot of work, and new challenges will happen. So if you feel that you're in a very good spot in your life and things misbehave, you still need to work, you still need to put an effort, and don't get scared. It doesn't mean that, oh my God, my relationship is collapsing. No, every moment of your life, you have to be working hard on building the relationship. And I have one example of a mom that's friend of Nardine that I It just happened that I was part of their process. It's amazing how she does not miss one opportunity to make her partner feel complete, and he is doing the same. And you can see this like, hey, we are here for each other, not picking on each other. We are actually complementing, we are completing each other. So I hope that we do the same in our fifth stage.
Absolutely. Any other final thought or comment or anything from anyone? Obviously, I'm really sorry that I went very quickly through the slides, and I want to thank all of you, and I want to thank God also that He made us actually ready to talk about this. He presented to us a lot of wonderful resources and materials, as well as I want to thank anybody who actually do the research on these areas so that we can find the information easily available. One last word I want to say is a true marriage need to be built on the foundation of Christ at every single stage of relationship. If Christ is part of that in the honeymoon phase, He will help you to enjoy the emotion while maintain the rational. While in the conflict phase, He will be the mediator. In the wholehearted, He will fill your heart with acceptance to one another, and so forth. So let us all end our talk today by prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Thank you, God, for always allowing us to meet and talk. Sometimes, oh Lord, we don't know what to say, but you send us wonderful information, wonderful resources, and wonderful comment and feedback and questions so that we can all have the full picture. I want to thank you today, Lord, for this opportunity, and I want to thank you for the audience, and I want to thank you for the past and the present and the future experience of your wonderful sons and daughters, that they will go through different phases while you are going to be with them, accompany them, so that this relationship can be baptized by your own Holy Spirit to be a relationship of joy, happiness, peace, tranquility, long-suffering, acceptance, and all of the wonderful fruits of the Spirit. Hear us and pray thankfully, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptations, deliver us from the evil one. In Christ Jesus our Lord, thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Go in peace. The peace of the Lord be with you.